Hey guys, it's Hannah. This week is all about how to paint your interior doors. I made a few mistakes, so I'm going to show you how I corrected them so you don't make the same mistakes. Let's go. A couple of years ago, I DIY'd my pantry door, and these two doors just didn't look right in comparison to it, so I knew I wanted to paint them. The first thing I had to do was pick a paint color. To paint doors, you need a special kind of paint. Don't just use your regular wall paint. Use a paint that's specifically meant for doors and trim. So this is Sherwin-Williams Urethane Trim Enamel, and this is my favorite paint for doors, furniture, cabinets, any type of surface that you're going to be painting that goes through a lot of wear and tear. So I'm testing out these two colors, and I like to paint on a big white piece of paper and then tape it up to any wall or door and just observe it and see which one I like better. So the first one here is Accessible Beige, and then the second one is Urban Bronze, which is the color of the pantry door. So I am convinced now that I should actually paint it black. I think that having the Accessible Beige, while very pretty, is just going to be too many colors in this space. So we're going to do Urban Bronze on the doors. I'm also going to change the handles so that it matches. Sorry, it's the baby gate. I'm also going to do, I'm going to change the handles as well, so they're gold. So it's going to be like some bronze with a gold, and it'll really pop, just like it does on my featured door. Let's start the painting process. I'm going to tape my doors with frog tape, and this is my favorite kind of tape. I find that you have like the least amount of bleed with it. And I decided I'm also going to paint the trim of the doors. I find that when you don't paint it, it just doesn't look substantial enough. So it'll give it a nice pop after I've really painted them. I am using Sherwin-Williams Urethane Trim Enamel line. This is like my favorite paint for doors, cabinets, painting furniture. It's just really durable. It doesn't scratch off. But also I just want to mention, if your doors are already painted, you definitely need to degloss and sand them. That's something I don't have to do because my builder hardly even have like one coat of paint on them. So yay, win there. Here we go. Okay, let's just do it. If I could go back in time, I'd tell myself, stop, don't paint that door. But you know what I did instead? I painted two entire doors. And then I did the scratch test and I realized something. I did not pass the scratch test. The scratch test is when you paint any surface and then you scratch it off and realize that the paint didn't stick. What does that mean? Well, it means I actually did need to do all the prep work for my doors. So don't do what I did. Don't start painting right away. First, we got to sand the doors. So I started to sand using P220 grit. And I know there's going to be people who say, hey, why didn't you take the door off the hinges? Honestly, I live in a townhouse and I don't really think I can carry these doors down 16 stairs by myself. So even though I sanded these doors one last time, I want to make sure that there's no issues because these doors are super high traffic. So I'm going to use Crud Cutter. So this is a deglosser. This is what I used on my upstairs doors, and I've had no issues at all with paint chipping or anything. And you just rub it on in a circular motion. It's super easy to use. And then it just helps to get some more of that glossiness off the doors. So I'm going to prime these doors, and the point here is not to cover up that black because, you know, we're going to be painting it anyways. It's just to make sure that our paint has a good surface to cling on to when we actually get to that stage. I have to admit, there's nothing glamorous about doing prep work, but making sure you prep your doors is so important so that your paint actually is going to adhere. So these are really high traffic doors. So this is a bathroom door and a closet door. And I've got 3 kids, and so you know they're always banging into doors, their toy cars are running into them, all that kind of stuff. So I need to make sure that once I paint these doors, the paint isn't chipping off. And here's a cool way to paint the bottom of your doors if you're leaving them on the hinges. You just take a piece of paper, preferably your kids' artwork that they didn't put away, and you just use it to protect your floors. Before we paint the doors, I'm also going to take the handles off. This is for 2 reasons. First, I am going to be swapping them out. And the second is that you won't get any brush marks if you take the handles off, right? Because if you leave the handles on, you're going to get those brush marks around the handle when you go and paint them. It's really simple to remove the handles. It's just a couple of screws on the actual handle. Now the only other thing you need to do is remove the door plate because I'm going to be switching mine to gold, and again that's just 2 screws again. We're finally to the most exciting part, which is when you start to paint the doors. Now when you're painting the doors, make sure you paint any of the grooves or crevices, or if you have trim on the door, paint those first with a brush. And you also want to paint the door frame as well if you're going to be doing that. And you can just go in with a brush, but I'll show you a tip later on as well to avoid any brush marks. To get the smoothest finish on your door without getting any roller marks or brush marks, you want to use a foam roller. A foam roller is really great because it gives you that smooth coverage. And then you just want to paint all the different sections. You're going to have to do a couple of different coats, but it goes really fast and it goes on really nicely, as you can see. Don't ever judge a paint color by the first coat. It's never going to be exactly as you want it to be. Have patience, and the second and third coat will look so much better. And here's a tip for painting the grooves. So what you want to do is put a little bit of paint on this end of the roller, okay? And then you just, this is really how you minimize the brush strokes, okay? Here I am using that paper hack again to paint the bottom of the doors. It's so much easier than taping up the floor. Remember when I talked about the second coat magic? Well, here I go with the second coat. And I'm one of those people that really loves a beautiful coat of paint. So I actually went in and did a third coat of paint as well. Is there anything more satisfying than pulling off your painter's tape and seeing a perfectly crisp line? Make sure you pull off the tape while the paint is still a little bit wet. This actually prevents your paint from pulling up with the tape, and you get that perfectly smooth line. Now the doors are painted, we're going to install the new hardware, and this is actually much easier than you probably think. So the first thing you want to do is insert the door jab and make sure that the little rounded part is facing towards the way the door is going to close. This is the bathroom door, so it actually has a little privacy mechanism. All of the door handles are a little bit different, but pretty much the same. And then all you gotta do is add your handles on both sides. And when you're adding them, it's okay if they're not like perfectly level, but make sure that the side with the screws is on the side that the door is gonna be closed, because you don't want those screws to be like on the outside of the hallway where it's really beautiful. You want it to look seamless from the outside. I'll link these handles too because they're beautiful and I've used them for a while now, and I think that they're really durable and they're great with kids too. You don't have to worry about the door handles being level yet. Just put the screws in, but don't make them super tight yet. Once your handles are secured, then you can use a level and just make sure that the door handles are level, and then go ahead and tighten all the way. And I prefer to use a screwdriver for this. And then make sure you also screw in the door jab. This one has a nice plate that covers it. Okay, here's one thing I forgot to mention. If you put your door handle on and you're finding that the door isn't closing, you might need to go in and chisel the door jab just a little bit. Okay, you can do that with a drill or even with an old school chisel, but it's not like such a big concern. I've changed a couple of doors and we had to do it. And then just go ahead and screw in the plate as well for the door handle. Now you'll see that I have a little bit of a messy edge here. I didn't tape up the inside of my door. I totally forgot. So this is a mistake I made and I went in and cleaned this up. But make sure you do this because that's just one way to make it look a lot more professional and less DIY. Remember when I said I didn't remove my door from the hinges? Well, one reason I didn't do that is because replacing hinges is really hard. I did it in my doors, my upstairs hallway, and there was a lot of chiseling and making sure that the hinges would fit correctly. So here I just took a little shortcut and I used Rub and Buff. So Rub and Buff is like a metallic wax and it's almost like a paint. So you can just paint it right onto your hinges, and there's like no difference between a gold hinge versus Rub and Buff. So this is a great, easy hack. Seriously, Rub and Buff is one of the coolest things I've used. I've also changed the color of my lamp and light fixture too. It's really great. And I will link it below because it comes in lots of different colors. Ready? Remember, these were just plain white doors, and here's the result. These doors in Urban Bronze by Sherwin-Williams are so much more beautiful. They really make this area seem so much more classy and elegant. I didn't paint the inside of these doors, so this one is just a coat closet, and ignore how messy it is because I have 3 kids. And the other one leads into a bathroom, and I just didn't feel like this color complemented the color of the bathroom, so I left it white on the inside as well. I also love this pantry door, so I'll link the tutorial so you can DIY it. If you love this DIY, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time for another budget DIY. Feel free to drop in any comments into the box, and I'll do my best to answer them.